Oh my God. Okay, I hit the button and now it's working. Sorry, we're live.
All right, all right, all right.
I told the stream we'd start in 10 minutes. That's weird. I guess it just only works some percentage of the time. I don't know if it's my internet. I don't think it is. Though I've been getting some. I need to just reevaluate my computer at some point here. All right, yeah, we're live. Is there anything else I need to do? I don't remember. I feel,
Uh,
I feel like everything. My brain is like an etch a sketch that just got cleared. Like I don't know how else to explain it. Like everything that happened a week ago actually happened a year ago, and I'm dead.
there you are. I see you. Yep, I'm on the. There's the ad before.
Oh, got it. Okay, cool. I figure we'll wait a minute and let people filter in. I mean, we don't have to talk about what we're going to talk about today. You know what we're going to talk about today. Like we don't have to figure that out. Like this is a pretty clear. This one's easy. Um, I should tell my Discord that I'm doing this.
The etch a sketch clearing is such a good metaphor.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Maybe my internet is slow because my stream is being slow too. Okay. Um, do you want to just dive into it? Do you want to just start?
yeah, let's go for it. So I guess a bit of background. You today is the 19th. You launched Kine on the 17th. I launched Manifold Garden yesterday, the 18th, and you know now we're in post launch.
Yeah. How are you?
Good. Yeah. So this is my first time shipping a game, and I'm not too sure what to expect. So far, it hasn't quite hit me that I've shipped. Like I know I've shipped,
Hmm.
and it feels different, but I'm not quite sure how yet.
Yeah.
Um, the ramifications haven't fully hit me, I think.
Well, I mean, part of it is you had people playing the game before, right?
Yeah, we had a lot of people play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and now you have a lot of people playing still. I think every time I launch a game, it's very different, and part of that's just I've been working in different scoped things. Sometimes I'm indie, sometimes I'm, bigger, and I don't know what you were expecting. Like, what were you expecting this to feel like?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't. Man, I'm not sure actually. Yeah, I'd spent so long. I think part of it was to get through such a long dev cycle. I had to accept that like working on the game forever as a reality. Do you know what I mean?
Uh huh.
Like I had to come to terms and be okay with this thing taking a really long time and not knowing the end and just like staying in there that I never really thought about it finishing.
I can see that. Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't. There's definitely like okay, because I've worked on longer projects too, and you just get excited about each little task, and then one day it's done. Has it? But you're not really done though, right? Like you've got more support to do, like you've said.
Yeah, and I think part of it too was we were basically informed that we were shipping on Friday 2 days before. We found out on Wednesday that we were shipping on Friday, so it all happened so quickly.
All right. There's things you
Yeah.
can't say about Apple, but I can because I know I'm close friends with three people that have shipped on Apple right now, and I know of two more people that are shipping on Apple Arcade. They are a very small team, um, is struggling to communicate with the developers, and they're generally like, "Hey, we need a trailer," and you're like, "Wait, what?
Yeah.
Like now? I can't make a trailer now. Like, oh, what do you need? A week? No. Like, we need more than a week. The fuck is wrong with you? Like, Apple, I've heard the stories about Apple. It's interesting. Man, the thing is, part of me wants to say, like, your ship, the way you launched was so unique and so different, but it's always unique and different, and there is no normal. So I can't say like what you experienced wasn't normal. It's never normal. There is no normal, right?
Yeah.
And what you've other people are going to talk to you about their launch experiences, and they're going to say about falling over the cliff's edge, and all of a sudden you have nothing to do, but you do still have stuff to do. And people are going to, because it's not like it used to be. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
people are going to talk about tracking sales, and like I can tell you stories about what it's like to to refresh these web pages, seeing how many sales you got in the first weekend because your first weekend mattered so much. But that's not what it's like anymore, especially for you, right? You got, I mean, I don't know the exact details of your contract, but there's a certain amount of money that you're getting no matter what, right? It's
Um,
just so
yeah,
different now.
I think getting the funding early took a lot of pressure off, especially just how crazy things are. One thing that's really cool is we're actually featured on, the front of Apple Arcade, which is pretty cool. That happening uh,
Nice.
on the launch for a game. But yeah, it's I think one of the things I was reading you did the Reddit AMA, and I actually learned a lot about your background. I had no idea you worked on Marvel Heroes Online
Yeah.
before. I actually thought Bioshock was your first gig.
No, I'm.
Uh,
Before I did that, I mean, your first game is never anything glamorous. Typically, you're a unique case, William. But like, my first game I worked on was actually canceled. It was an MMO. I actually was like, it was right when the economy was collapsing, and I was in
right.
college, and so I managed to get a job, and so I just took the first job I could get. I mean, I was really, really excited to break into the industry, but the economy was collapsing, and I didn't even graduate. As soon as I had an opportunity, I moved out, and I just took it, and I just told my teachers they needed to find a way to make me graduate, and they did. Because I just like accepted some very low grades for the last few classes. But my first gig was working in MMOs. I worked there for about 6 months, and then the whole studio closed. And
Wow.
then I worked on Marvel Heroes Online. I actually left there. I left them in good shape, but I left them before they shipped because that was going to be a very long project, and my role was really boring. Like I was just, I love the Marvel universe, but you can only skin so many humanoids to the same rig before you want to die.
Right.
And I just reached a point where I'm like, I'm skinning the 50th spandex ridden human being to the same fucking rig, and I just like there was no joy there. I had to go. So yeah, I was in the industry for a couple of years before I joined Irrational.
Yeah, I think so. Your perspective is like you've seen how the industry changed. Where I think like when I came in 2012, I sort of thought whatever was going on then was the norm.
Uh, I mean, to be fair, I did too. Um, I was. I'm taking this launch a lot better than I took the Flame and the Flood. Like, I was devastated with the Flame and the Flood because if your first launch sets a certain expectation for how things should go.
Hmm.
And I was used to AAA. My biggest launch was Bioshock Infinite, and so the idea of and I knew obviously there'd be fewer players. I was accustomed to a lot of things, but I wasn't accustomed to this idea that most of your sales won't be in the first weekend, like by far.
Hmm.
Because back then, whether you were indie or AAA, it didn't matter. Like 10 years ago, you got most of your sales early, and then people sold your game back to the stores, or, it was just different back then. And the idea of like right now, Kind has been out for 48 hours, and there's no Metacritic, and there won't be a Metacritic for a while because the critics are busy. Like,
So
the idea of that, we the biggest thing for us was we needed the money, and a lot of people in the Flame and the Flood had families.
right.
And that game launched, and we weren't prepared for the fact that revenue wouldn't come for a while, and it would slowly build over time rather than in AAA or in the past. Most of your revenue comes right when you launch, and then it drops off. Whereas that one was kind of like a slow build and then a slow drop. Like they call that kind of a thick, long tail. I'm prepared for that now. I can see it happening with Kind, and I accept it. Like, Kind is not going to sell as many units this weekend. Kind is going to sell more. I'm going to get far more units in a month from now when it comes out on Stadia. Stadia, Google Stadia is really nice. They're going to do a giant push promoting Kine. That's going to get me a lot more sales on all platforms. I'll quintuple the number of people playing. And then the first time it goes in sale, I'll see more. And then when it goes into, like these other services, I'll see way more. Every time you make the game cheaper, way more people play. And so you don't launch a game and you're done anymore. You launch a game and then it's just kind of grows. Even if it's a single player game, even if it's a fucking single player puzzle game, like most of the people playing won't play for a while. But that's my situation. Your situation is
Yeah.
actually quite different because your game is free for everybody that has Apple Arcade. You launch directly into a live service. So you actually have, I would guess, significantly more people playing your game right now.
Yeah, I've not checked any of the stats.
Good. Yeah, that's fine. Don't. Don't. It doesn't matter. As based on what I can't say anything. We can't talk about the monetary details, but it like literally doesn't matter how many people are playing or not. Are you proud of what you made?
Yeah. I mean, it was 7 years, and I honestly can't believe I did it. And super happy with the work that turned out in the end, and like the team that put it together. Yeah, I'm really proud of everyone on the team. Um,
Yeah.
it's just like honestly, I can't believe I stuck with this for so long. Like if you had told me, when I started the project, 25-year-old me, that this was going to take 7 years, I would have been like, no way. And it took up this almost like accepting your fate, this sort of like giving up your own ego to really move forward. That I think has been very transformative.
Man, there's no one, there's no standard experience. What you had is so unique and so yours. You know what I mean? And the challenges we faced are so different from what everybody else faced. Because you especially, like, it's hard to be in a space where there's a lot of like AAA or AA, and there's a lot of very small scale indies, but there's not many indies at your scale that are punching up, and they especially aren't doing it as their first game. You're insane.
Yeah. Should we be answering some of the questions in the chat?
Sure, yeah, why not? I mean, it's a podcast, but I'm sure they'll like it.
Community podcast. Yeah, because somebody's asking how I survived without income for 7 years.
Ah,
Yeah, I mean, I did get some funding, but I was just super frugal the whole time. I don't think it was really healthy the way I did it.
you don't think so? Like, what do you think is the healthy way to do it then?
Well, I think part of it is that the first it got better, but I think the first 2 3 years, when I started, I thought I was going to finish in 3 months, and I did not. And I remember going to GDC in 2014, and I would show it to people. I remember showing it to Rami, and he told me, he's like, "Yeah, you've got 2 years left on this," and I was like, "Nah, no way." And so for those like 2 3 years, I just kept thinking I was only 2 months away, and
Mm.
not accepting the fact that I was in it for the long haul. So I would kept trying to like stay up all night. I would do these like 18-hour work days because this one night is going to make the difference. And it wasn't until I think like 2015, 2016, entering the like fourth year that I was like, wait a minute, this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Hmm.
And I better start taking care of myself. And then the other thing too was I kept putting off life decisions. It was like I can't have fun. I can't do this. Like all these things that I wanted to do, I had to put off until the game was done.
This is especially true, and you get this a lot in AAA because you feel everybody expects indies to slip. Like indies have no idea what the fuck they're doing. There's this just general sense, like, of course you say that you're never gonna ship on time. It'll be 10 times longer. Like there's this exceptions, but in AAA you generally kind of think that people know what they're doing. It's just false. And you generally, so you'll do things like how do I put it? You'll schedule your wedding so it'll happen 4 months after ship, and then the game will slip 6 months. Like these things, this is so common in AAA. It's unbelievable. Like it's the joke of you end up not going on vacation at all for the last year of your project, the last year, because if initially you're like, well, I can't go on vacation in these 3 months because I'm shipping there. And then you realize those 3 months move and move and move. This everyone goes through this. But you went through it way too early. I mean, and we've talked about this before. You settled into a routine. You accepted that this is a job and so forth.
Yeah, and I think when I turned 30, because for a long time I was like, I gotta finish this game before I turn 30. I don't know why I thought that was such a big deal. And then I turned 30 and the game wasn't done. I was like, I'm gonna finish this game while I'm 30. And then finally I turned 31 and I was like, fuck it. It's gonna take however long it's gonna take.
So, but like, was there a point? How do I put this? I think you were pretty close to shipping, and then you signed the Apple deal, and that pushed things back a bit, right?
Not really, actually. I think they were. We didn't start talking to them until like 3 months. I think it must have been like May or June, and April, May, and I think they were interested because our expected release date was August, which lined up well with the launch. And I
Mm,
think that's kind of why they wanted to move ahead mainly.
I
But
see.
yeah, they were. It didn't. It we our original plan was actually to come out on consoles at the same time as PC, but when Apple approached us, that was when we dropped all of the console
Right.
development and then focused on Mac OS and iOS,
Got it.
tvOS. Yeah.
Yeah, we did talk about that. Cool. Were there any other questions from the chat? I have so many questions for you. Like, where to begin? How did you have a lot of bugs at launch, or are you doing okay there?
We did have one, I think, for the GTX 760 GPUs, the edge detection just wasn't rendering. So, that's a core part of our style. And part of that, what happened was we actually thought we were going to be a launch title on Apple Arcade, but we found out like 2 days before that we got a message from them. They're like, "Hey, your game is crashing on iPod Touch,"
Mm.
and our reaction was like, "We have to support the iPod." We two questions. We're like, "We have to support the iPod Touch," and they're still making those. Turns out there is an iPod Touch 2019 model that we just were not accounting for, so it was defaulting to like a higher performance setting, so it was crashing. It was running out of memory. I had to go out that night, buy an iPod Touch, run it. It turned out to be an easy fix, but we missed that day. But the problem was that everybody had already scheduled their travel plans in October, thinking they'd be
Mm.
free. And
Ooh,
Arthur, our graphics programmer, was in Venice. But like we put a fix out day one, but
I
it
have a
was a little hectic.
similar fucking story, but like Stadia is coming online, and this is new tech, so it's a combination of things, right? Like it's a new app on the phone, it's a new app on like their TV. This is a new app as well as new hardware. There's a lot of things in flux. It's a new console as well, right? So there was an issue for us that we fixed on the Pixel phone for my game. But this issue is the result of like a, I can't say much without breaking NDA. Basically, not our fucking fault, but not anybody's fault. Shit went down. But unfortunately, I'm only working with one programmer for the Stadia port, and this was his vacation. He was in Italy. I was supposed to be done 2 weeks ago. So like, I'm sitting here. I don't like. I'm not a programmer, right? There's literally a one line code that Epic did in their engine, and I just need to get this one line of code into my game. But the thing is, I've never compiled the game. The way the game compiles is through like an automated system that Elmore has. It just turned into like a whole thing where he had to what do you call it, from Italy. I had to set up remote desktop. He remote desktoped into his computer at home and like integrated this one line fucking change so that I could put it through Stadia cert again. Stadia's coming out in a month. It's looking really good, guys. Get into it. But like I'm excited for Stadia. But yeah, dev on a new platform, man. Hell of a thing.
Yeah.
No.
Kate has a question that I think I'd like to talk to you about that I think is relevant to you as well. Kate's asking about like the length of development and then people finishing it. And I that ties into something that I've always wondered, which is when you make a personal game and how how do you feel about that when it's out there? Um, yeah, because reading your AMA, you were saying Kind was like one of many prototypes that finally got you excited again. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you see it as like a reflection of part of who you are. I think it always, anything you make has to be, but is
Um,
this one sort of like intentionally so?
well, I mean, so for me, I get bored, right? Um, and I like doing different things. And to Kate's point, Kate says that kind feels kind of lengthy. Uh, I, I would like to touch on lengths of games because, like, highly replayable games are generally seen as being more value. I personally prefer kind of single player, shorter experiences. To me personally, I think like the ideal game is probably a 7 or 8 hour game. And I wish Con was like a little bit longer and had a little bit more meat. But simultaneously, I wish I'd cut more. I think so. The fastest person as far as puzzle games go is Elliot. Like he's really, really good at puzzle games. And he played both of our games on the days they came out. And I think he beat mine in 6 hours and yours in like close to that, like 5 hours and change. But he's fast. Like he's like the fastest fucking puzzle guy, right? Uh, I think I'm proud of Kind. I wish it was a little bit longer, personally, to touch on the length of this stuff. As far as your question about personal, um, that being said, there's games that are extremely short. Like Eliza is fantastic. I really, really deeply enjoyed that game, but it was probably more of a 4 hour experience. And I think I think this is a good length of time for a game. What else am I trying to say? There is something about spending years and years on something and watching somebody beat it in a matter of hours that really, like, I'm used to it because I'm an animator. Animators spend a shit ton of time on 2 seconds. So I'm very familiar with that feeling. I don't know how you feel about that, William. I don't know if you were braced for that. Like,
Um,
did you know that you were going to spend like, you knew conceptually how long your game was. Did you know you would spend 7 years on a game and then somebody would beat it in like eh, six
I'm
hours?
honestly just happy that people are beating it because for a long time there was one version of the game that people were not finishing,
Oh, yeah.
and we had to cut a lot of stuff, do a lot of surgery, um, and it's almost hard for me to imagine there being more to the game without it being filler.
Repetitive. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Oh, so here's a good thing example. Like I know one of the earlier builds, we used to have these levels that I would call, we used to have these puzzles that I would call exam puzzles. And I think calling them exam puzzles is in the name itself is already indication that they're not that fun.
yeah.
Because basically you learn like concept A, concept B, concept C, and then I would just have a puzzle that had A, B, and C together. Um, and then I sort of took a step back and I was like, you know what? Those aren't that fun. All I want is for the puzzle to have this aha moment. And if it didn't have that, then let's just take it out because
Yeah.
it's not about getting you to. I didn't want you to feel like you were taking a test.
Yeah. I respect that. I actually wish I had cut more of mine in the middle. Like I wish mine was a little bit shorter. Um, I don't think being longer is necessarily a good thing. I think you did right. I have to play Manifold Garden still. I'm going to pop some Dramamine before I do. I struggle with first person games. You have no idea. Like I'll get it done, but I can't even watch people stream it. Like it hurts. That's a Gwen problem, but I will play that game. I'm really excited for you. And I'm glad you cut it down to being the thing that you wanted it to be. And I do think, especially for games of this style, I think having more content. Some puzzle games do end up being longer. Like Pipe Push Paradise took quite a bit longer. And I don't think it was because there were more puzzles. I think it was because it was a harder game with more hardcore puzzles that just take a lot longer to make. And you have to be somebody that wants to make those. And your audience is going to be different. Your audience is going to be somebody who wants to sit down and beat those. You know what I mean? Whereas I
Right.
think you were making a game with a lot of spirit and soul in it, you know? And I don't think you were making a game that was supposed to be punishingly difficult. I think you made a game from everything I've seen, you made a game that had a lot of expression to it, and that really, and you've already said you wanted to make something that people finished. So I don't know. It makes sense to me.
We did we got a couple of puzzles. I ended up one thing that helped a lot was we brought on Geert Nellen. Hope I'm pronouncing his name right. It's a Dutch name. Geert Nellen. He came on I think a year ago because I and helped us. He worked on this game Metrico. It's like this
Yeah.
for PS Vita. Really cool like spreadsheets as platformer, you know. And he came in as like a design consultant to help us cut because I just had this mess of a game. He was almost like a film editor. You know, I just had all this footage and I couldn't see what was important, and he really helped us find out like the golden path. And then I think like 4 months before ship, we brought him back to help with the ending, which again I just could not. We had the ending, and our producer Kevin was like, "Hey, you got to finish the ending because the musician and the sound designer need you to lock down the design so they can get to work."
Oh, you said before you launched, by the way, you said the indiest shit I've ever heard. Where
Which,
you were talking to me and you're like, yeah, well, the music isn't in for the end, but we're gonna ship it anyway, and we'll patch it in on the first day. And I was like, holy mother of God, that is
yeah,
the indiest shit I have ever heard about. I told my composer to chill and take a break. You know, it's important to relax in life, but we'll patch it in tomorrow. I'm like, you're planning it the day before launch. You're planning a day one patch. Are you out of your mind? I think I actually want to rant for like a second if it's okay, because this is
sure.
like I don't know where to go with this. So I get this from, you're not the only one, to be fair. I made a joke on Twitter where I was like, oh, what do I do now? I've got nothing to do. It's 24 hours. And somebody's like, cram a change into the game. Look, when you're launching on multiple platforms, here's what it's like. Work backwards, right? From your launch, you need to have keys to the press about a week or two before launch, unless you're a total asshole. Like, you don't want the press to have to crunch. So you have to get the keys to the press about a week or two before launch. You can't give keys until you're done with your storefront. You can't submit your submitting your storefront takes a week minimum. You're going to fail the first time. So in reality, submitting your storefront is going to take 2 weeks minimum for each storefront, right? You can't submit your storefront on Xbox, PS4, Switch, etc. until you've gone through cert. It takes a solid month to get through cert, right? So
Yeah.
it's not this concept of like, I'll just change shit right before launch. Like, it's literally impossible. If you make a change, that change has to go through submissions and isn't going to be in anyways. Like, but I think because so many indies are PC focused, or I guess, like, how did you patch in one day on Apple Arcade?
Well, that is actually more like consoles. I'll be honest, I don't quite know how the patch process on Apple works, and I'm not sure Apple does. I think we're all just still figuring stuff out.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's going up for PC first. Yeah,
got it. Oh, okay, yeah. So PC is so simple. I will
yeah.
say, with especially, have you launched on Steam or
Not yet. No,
okay,
never.
or
Yeah,
like, I mean, ever? Have you ever launched anything on Steam?
never. Yeah, no.
There's there Epic is simultaneous. The Epic Game Store is simultaneously beautiful and horrifying, and that basically you upload a build and you just click that one, and then it's live. Like, there isn't even a prompt. Like, you sure? Like, nothing. There's no filter. Which the first time I did it, because like I'm primarily console first. When I did that, I was like, oh, Jesus. That can't possibly be true. And I look over, like, I clicked that button, and on my other screen I had the Epic Store, and it just popped up and automatically downloaded. I'm like, wow, that's dangerous. Like, that's too much power. You can't be giving people that kind of power, William.
Yeah.
Like, that's terrifying.
We use we did a lot of beta testing on itch. I think we had like by the time we shipped maybe 600-700 beta testers. So we're still using itch as kind of the the staging area. You know, we'll push itch first, make sure that build runs, and then we'll submit it to Epic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're not for sale on itch, right?
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
and it's just our beta testers who've been playing the game. I think probably like 3-4 years. They're used to things being broken all the time.
That's good. You got a good group there. It's
Yeah, and so
nice.
I think that that's also one thing that made launch like the I always wanted launch to be feel just like another day, like that we were used to getting builds out on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I think by the time, yeah, I would say maybe like the month or two leading up to launch, we were basically pushing new build stage daily.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I always do that. I did the same thing, but I did with Steam, uh, which is cool. But I don't have massive playtesters. It's just like me and three people. I'm trying to think. Ours, I don't have it quite as good as you. I have, I have an automated build system for the consoles and stuff, but that Elmore runs, and he basically every time I do a check into Perforce, it automatically creates all the builds and then puts them up on a Google
Yep.
Drive, and then I can like deploy them to my Xbox and stuff. But there's still the upload process, and you still have to go through like submissions for each patch and so forth. And so I only did that at like the one time at the end. Well, the one time at the end and then again because I failed Surge and then again. I like I fucking I'm I am never doing a multi-console launch again. I am finding one console and I'm getting an exclusivity deal with it and that's it. Like I can't do this, especially cuz each console is like actually 3, right? Like you don't just do Sony, you do Sony of America, Sony of Europe and Sony
Right.
of and I couldn't. Like I gave up on Asia. Like cuz it's I can't read Chinese as part of or Japanese in some cases. I just gave up. Like I can't launch in Japan without a 0 rating, and I can't get a 0 rating without I don't know spinning in a circle 4 times and throwing a chicken over a fence, and I just lost my mind. Like
Right.
it's just unbelievable. And oh god, like those last couple weeks, man. Like the number of times I had to export a trailer, I have hundreds of the same trailer over and over. I have one in each language for Peggy. I had to the number of times I had to re-encode them because the way they need to be encoded for one storefront, like for the Sony Europe is different from Sony America. Like I've lost, by the time we launched, I didn't remember kind anymore. Like
You
I,
should you should see some of the requests Apple had for us. They asked for like a bunch of 4K videos, which took us forever to upload, and then and they wanted it ProRes, encoded ProRes, and then we uploaded them, and they're like, we actually need 4K by 4K. To which it's like, how do you even capture that? Um,
yeah, I had to buy a capture card to capture directly off the Switch for some of their stuff. It's just like fucking God.
oh, can you
But
not use PC footage
you can't for
for
your
Switch?
trailer. You couldn't for one of their promos. It
I see.
just I like I don't know how to explain what a fucking nightmare that was. Like I don't like I just never. No, next time I'm jumping in with one storefront. You did the best imaginable thing. Like I think I don't I'm not I don't want to say you accidentally nailed it, but you fucking nailed it. Like because you only had to do one PC storefront too. And the PC
Yeah.
storefronts are easier, but still like two storefronts. That sounds delicious. Well done. Sorry, this is turning
Uh,
into my therapy. So, like just rant about launching. I like
well, actually, the other day on stream, I was like, I said, this is good and it's cheaper than therapy. So,
oh my god. But I have a question. Would you work with Apple again given all the requirements? iPod malarkey and them telling you your own release date. How do you feel about Apple, William Chyr?
they're great. I mean, it's a new audience. It was a challenge, definitely, for us to do all of that in 3 months. But it's exciting to be, and you're doing that too with Stadia, to be like part of a new platform, right? I kind of
Oh yeah.
definitely too late for PS4, too early for PS5. I don't know what's going on with Xbox.
I don't have
Um,
any contacts at Sony, and the ID at Xbox team is a large turnover, and you're stuck in a place where like you could hate Apple right now, but you would have to say the same words you just said, right? Because we never know. You never like you don't want to burn those bridges. That's the other thing. So that's a cruel
No, yeah,
question.
I definitely don't hate. There's no hate. There's a lot of love. I mean, for them to have chosen the game and supported it.
Yeah.
It's more like it was just chaotic. It
Hmm.
was stressful launching, which I think any any launch is.
You know,
But we learned a lot, as a team, as just kind of get going through that, and also seeing what it's like to be part of something new.
yeah. So the other thing is like it's exciting because you're doing a new. This is your first game, and this is a new team getting together. But Apple Arcade, that's a new team too, right? And like Stadia, these guys they're a new team doing a new thing too. In Epic's Game Store, I mean, I don't. Maybe you don't have a feeling for what it's like when you're working with an established store versus a new one, so you actually don't know the difference. But this is a new thing. Like this is the Epic way is interesting because it's like when I first started working with them and set up my page, like months and months ago, back then they didn't have their back end at all. So it was just us in a Slack, and I would just give them images. And there was no way for me to see what the storefront would look like until it was live. So they would just send me like images of what mock ups of what it will probably look like. And then they would push it live to the world, and then I'd see it. Like, it's kind of wild to be to see something like that grow and develop, and it's cool to have your studio grow and develop alongside of a service like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, what are your do you
though I actually did have a bit of experience with an established storefront working with Sony when we were getting,
mm,
we're still working on the PS4 build, but that was, yeah, it is. I was surprised at how informal working with uh, Epic, especially Epic, where we just have a Slack channel, and then Apple, it's a lot of emails where you just kind of email up your contact and like, hey, we need this. Whereas with Sony, they've done it a million times. So on their website, it's like
with
there's
Sony?
probably some document explaining what you need to do.
So
You just have to
I don't know
go
if
through
you've
it.
I don't know if you've this as well, but I can't. You have to have a static IP in order to work with Sony in order to go to their website, right?
Yes.
So every time I want to do anything with Sony, I have to like do this remote VPN thing, like to a static IP. So it's like it's a massive drag. I personally, the bigger companies also just have a lot more process. I mean, there will be a process at some point with Epic, but it's kind of nice being there when it's new and loose. Um, yeah. What are you gonna keep this team together? What are you doing for vacation? Like, what are you gonna do to unwind right now?
Not thought about that. Yeah, we are going to have a small post-launch party kind of at the beginning of November, where a bunch of people on the team are coming into to Chicago, and we're gonna hang out. And finally, it's an opportunity for a lot of us to be in the same space, same physical space together at the same time. Actually, these days, just it's actually with everyone's schedules, it's tough to even be online at the same time.
Yeah.
We've got people in Europe, in LA, um, Chicago. So that's kind of the only break we've got planned. We're jumping into like moving full steam ahead with the console versions.
Yeah.
So I think for the next 12 months I'll be pretty busy. I am thinking of going to Russia
No
in May
shit.
for the DevGam conference, and I think that'll be my vacation.
Yeah, I decided at the very last second I'd go to reboot develop in like 2 weeks. So, because
Where is Reboot?
Canada, like, I know there. It was weird. There was just an opportunity that came up, and I was like, you know what, fuck it. So, and then I'm thinking like maybe I'll just go to Migs after that. Like I'm just gonna start conference hopping, just to keep my mind off shit.
Yeah, I stopped doing that. I went to like 30 conferences between 2014 and 2016. It was almost, I think it averaged like one a month. And then I had to stop
Dude.
because it was just too exhausting. I wasn't getting any. I mean, you get a lot of work done, but work that's specific to conferences. So you're able to like iterate, but you never redo the sort of underlying architecture, right? Because you never want to. Sometimes you got to take things apart,
Got it. So
and
you
they're
were
going to
going
be
to
broken for
conferences to
months.
show the game and stuff.
Exactly, and it
Yeah.
helped a lot. But then at some point, it was like, hey, we need to sit down and redo the save system,
Yeah.
which is not something that we can show, and that's something where the game's going to be broken for
Oh.
3-4 months while we fix
No,
that.
I'm not putting I'm not going to conferences to showcase kind. I'm going to conferences to get drunk with other game developers and celebrate. This is how I don't have a team I can celebrate with, right? Like, did I lose you, dude? Oh no! Every now and then
No,
you
I'm still
stand.
here.
Every now and then you stand very still, and I get freaked out that we've lost the feed. But I don't. I can't do like a party because it would just be like me and Mitchell uh, drinking. And it's kind of like, you did a good soundtrack, Mitchell. He'd be like, yeah, I did. And then it'd be kind of like, all right, cool. So, no, I'm just going to go live it up with some of my friends in Canada and so forth. All right. What other questions we got here? Blink twice if Apple's making you say this.
Do I only ship on storefronts owned by people called Tim? Tim Cook and Tim Sweeney.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
I was watching Jonathan Blow play the game last night, and that was on his stream, and that was a trip because watching Indie Game the movie,
Is that what
like what's
inspired you?
yeah, 7 years ago, a friend of mine at the I had worked in advertising for 7 months, and I became friends with this guy Lane, who was also my neighbor, and he was really into video games. I remember he showed me like Journey, Flower on PS4, and he had backed the movie on Kickstarter. And he's like, "Hey, I just got the key. You want to come over and watch it?" And after I was like, "Wow, this actually looks like a really cool medium. I want to try it."
Dude.
Apparently, John is streaming right now, but we
Nice.
got this podcast here.
Is he streaming Manifold Garden?
Yes,
Nice. Cool. Dude.
but that was a cool moment. Just to sort of like,
You felt like it went full circle, kind of like your game.
yeah, yes, yes.
Everything wraps around. No, that's awesome. Congratulations. Is that I don't know how to ask this question. Like, do you feel like you've hit success yet? I don't know what to say. Like, what is, this is bullshit. You try to define success, right? And then you don't really know what's going to happen when you launch. And then you have launch, and then you just kind of decide how you feel about it retroactively almost. And we're still way too close to really kind of figure out, like, at some point, weeks from now, I want to do a proper postmortem with you. Where it's like, what did I
Yeah,
learn? What would I really do differently? Because I think it's just too close right now.
about the success question, a lot of these sort of deals with Epic, Apple did not really happen until I think like 4 or 5 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
They were relatively late in development, and before that, just seeing a lot of the discussions about Indie Apocalypse, I was honestly I was super worried, right? We didn't have a whole lot of wish lists on Steam, and I didn't. I certainly believed in the game, but you want to do a reality check. So I had kind of like made peace with the fact that the game might not sell any copies. Like I mentally prepared myself for that, and so I was like, what for me, what do I like? One of the things that I was really worried about was how do I move on in life after spending 7 years working on something that sells zero copies. It's like how do I not live the rest of my life with this defining me as a failure?
Mm-hmm.
Even though I know it doesn't, it's like how do you separate that? And so I did a lot of thinking, and I was like, for me, success is just finishing it. As long as I finish this game, that to me is success. And any money I make is just bonus.
Yeah.
So I think that has helped me. Like, so I feel, I haven't checked any of the numbers. I haven't checked the stats. It seems like people like it. We've gotten some bug reports already. All of people, they report bugs on like YouTube comments, like Twitter, DMs, Discord, and we're consolidating all that. But it has been. But yeah, I feel good. I'm like I set out to do this thing, and I stuck with it, and I shipped it, and proud of the game and the team that put together. I learned a lot. So that for me is already it's already successful.
I'll admit I was a bit worried about you because partly because it was such a long process, and partly because of certain things like you just mm, you went into that subreddit called Fuck Epic and started replying to people. Um, you're not going to win those people. Like, there's going to be a lot of people giving you the comments you get on YouTube are not going to be happy people. And this isn't because of anything you've done. When people are happy with a game, they play the game. Sometimes they tell you they like it, but mostly they play the game. However, when people are unhappy with a game, those people go on the internet and talk about it. And so if you're on the internet looking at what people are saying on these comments on YouTube and stuff, all you're going to see are bugs and unhappy people for the most part. Like, it's a rare human that's like, I like this so much, I'm going to go tell them. Like, that's
No,
not as common. And so that's why, and I think if you're in AAA, you know that a lot more. Like, if you come from working on an online game, especially, your forums are full of the problems with the game and the
yeah,
things that should be nerfed and the things that are totally broken. That's the stuff that's going to be on your forums. The people who are happy with the game are currently playing the game, and because they're happy and they're doing the thing that makes them happy. Do you understand what I'm saying?
definitely. Yeah. Um, yeah. The YouTube comments have actually been very positive.
That's
But yeah,
good.
I definitely was on. I think when I first saw those posts, I went in and just responded to everyone, and then I realized it was a losing battle and wasn't doing me any good. And also, like, there's been another fuck epic thread where because Polygon wrote an article that was like, hey, after 7 years, Manifold Garden's finally coming out on the Epic Store, and it was interesting seeing the narratives that were constructed. They were like, after 7 years, this guy decides to spit in the face of his fans, and
Yeah.
it was like it couldn't be farther from the truth. And I just realized that's not,
Uh,
you know, yeah, there was no
the
point in
thing
me
is, I didn't
engaging.
even know there was that Reddit until I was hanging out in your channel and you were started talking about it. I don't know. I don't know how you know about it. I wish you didn't know about it. Like, you can't seek out the negativity like that. I mean, I don't want to give you advice in this. It's just
Yeah,
the internet. You know the internet, right?
yes.
All right. You did an amazing thing here. You should feel insanely proud. And I know the next thing is probably crippling fear, but and I don't want to give you advice, but you
No,
know,
I'd love to hear it. You've done this, a bunch of times. I'm
not
so
no. I'm
new.
trying to explain this to you. Every launch is completely different, and the way
Right.
you feel about the launch is different. The way I feel about this launch of Kind is so insanely different from the way I felt. Like, when I was at Irrational, for one thing, by the time we launched, I had already rolled off the project and had gone to Hawaii, and then come back. Like, because of that cycle I told you is even longer in AAA. Like, the entire team rolls off like 3 months. Even the engine programmers roll off 2 months before launch and are told to leave the studio and go away because it just takes time for the marketing team to get everything lined up. Because it takes time to
Oh
go through
wow.
search on all the platforms. And with a large, like a 60-hour game, you need to give the press keys ideally 3 weeks before launch. And that game had better be fucking done. And you can't give the press keys until the game is through cert, and you can't get through cert. Like, so, like, minimum 2 months before launch, the entire team of over 100 people are gone. And then you come back to the office later, and then you see what the press think, and I like that kind of launch is so extremely different from the launch of The Flame of the Flood, is so extremely different from the launch of
I
Kind,
see.
that it's difficult for me to give you advice. And I think it's honestly pretty, you have just experienced what should be the most, in my mind, the most difficult and painful imaginable moment where, like, I'm amazed you haven't just dropped off the cliff and started wondering what to do with your life, like you're describing earlier. And so I would, I mean, I don't know what to advise to you, but I think getting really excited about a vacation where you just, you know, drop some real hard drugs wouldn't be the worst idea. Like, or I don't know what you do to, Oh God, I don't want to say that either. Because the worst thing about the end of this is when all of a sudden you have that moment where you're like, "What did I used to do?" Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know if you felt it yet, or if you. That might just be something if you experience hard crunch, right? With Kine, I just finished crunching for 2 years straight, right? And so I have a weekend, and I'm like, "What is weekend? What do people
Hmm.
do?" I'm just like going for walks, looking at people, like, "What do these fuckers do? Like, what did they
Hmm.
do? I don't understand." And you have these kind of moments. But I'm rambling. I think
Yeah.
I think vacation would be good.
Certainly, yeah, I'm expecting that, but we've also, I think for us internally, we've focused so much on routines, just kind of doing the same thing and then repeating that every day. And right now, what we're trying to do is just figure out a routine for post launch. How do we? Okay, Kevin is checking the forums for bug reports. I'm doing email, and then we consolidate that, and then we discuss like, okay, this is what we want to work on. Actually, one of the things that we want to do this coming week. So I guess I feel like these routines are keeping me busy. That nothing's really.
Yeah, that
It
is
feels
true.
like another
You
day.
do have people. That helps a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we want to do is sit down as a team and talk about at what point is the game finished for us. Um,
Hmm. I,
Especially with now, like we can always add more content. We can always fix these tiny bugs, and I don't want us to have a moving goalpost where
yeah.
every email that comes in, we're like, we have to do this. We should just be like, hey, here's what we ship with. What else is there that we'd like to add that we would be happy to consider it done? And let's get to that. And then, if we want to continue working on it, that's a second conversation. But I want us to set our own goals moving forward.
Yeah, it is definitely unique these days because you ship and then you definitely have like shipping isn't the end, especially because you still have console launches coming up and so forth. So that's kind of nice actually. You have a kind of like down ramp, which is good. At some point, give yourself the space to be bored. I guess that would be something I would advise. It's
Yeah.
good
I
to.
guess like what are you thinking? Because you've got Stadia coming up.
That's
No,
yeah. I put that in cert already, so that should be done.
have they announced an exact date, or is it
They
just still
did
November? Oh,
November
they
9th,
did.
November 19th. Yeah,
Oh,
so
wow. Okay, a month from now.
1 month. Yep.
Yeah.
I
But there's nothing for you to do at this
I
point.
should be done. I submitted to cert. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, they're a very different storefront. They have a lot of process. Uh and their team is extremely experienced. A lot of them come from Sony and so forth. So you were working with Epic. That's mostly like, here's a file in Slack, and I love that, man. I fucking love no process. But with Stadia, it's a lot more of shit tons of documentation. They want everything to be very perfect and precise, and I'm really looking forward to their launch. They are is you have to walk a line because I can't break NDA in any way, but I really want them to succeed very badly. I like the people there a lot. I think they're very smart and very sharp. I think the thing they are building is incredibly impressive technically. I think the thing they are building is going to need, it's just going to take time to catch on. Like it's going to be something that slowly rolls out across the world, and that you're aware sticking with a large project for a long time is draining. And I think the people there are capable of doing it, and I'm hoping that Google sticks with it. And I think, um, I mean, everybody at Google reads everybody reads the internet. Everybody knows what the criticisms are about them, right? And I think everybody on Stadia has heard like this, the people online who are like, this is just going to get canceled. So put yourself in the shoes of somebody that's working on Stadia, or you go in every
Yeah.
day and you're working this thing that's difficult and it's going to take a really long time, and all you read on the internet is how your company is going to cancel your project. Like that must suck.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember seeing I think it was all that stuff going around a few weeks ago about the predictive capabilities. I
yeah,
mean, it totally made sense when you looked into it, but people were making fun saying it was impossible. It's like, well, they're sort of just caching the the most likely move so that they're ready.
I think
Um,
personally, I think I would have just not mentioned that until it was already out and working, and then been like, "Here's how we did it. Basically, we're fucking gods." Like that's the way I would have approached it. I don't know if I would have talked about it. PR is a difficult thing, though. It's hard to know exactly what to do, and you want to let like they are still. You run a company now, you get it. You want to let people who are passionate about their tech talk about it and brag about it and feel like ownership and so forth. And so you want to let your employees do that, right?
yeah,
Like you
I
can,
really want Arthur, our graphics programmer, to make a video explaining, how he did the edge detection and MFA, but mostly so I can understand what's going on.
yeah. Dude, there's times when like I'll make a video or I'll explain something to somebody in writing and then I'll bookmark it so I can go back later because I'm totally going to forget how my own systems work a couple
But
years later, you know? But
there was a while for I would used to I took down my blog posts. It's down for now. I should bring it back up. But I had written a couple of blog posts about like post process shaders, and I remember having to read one of them to solve a bug, and it was like, oh, I'm glad I wrote this down.
that does make me question myself sometimes, though. You know what I mean? Like, am I slipping? Damn, I used to be smart. Like when you look at your best work from like back in the day.
I
Oh
think of
god.
it like you just have limited RAM. You can
Mhm.
only keep so much in your head.
Yeah, totally, dude. Hmm, have people asked you questions or made done anything to make you grumpy? If I ask you what you're thinking about doing next or how you're feeling about things going forward, will you get grumpy? Is it too soon to think about that?
No, no, we're good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gotten there's a few uh we're yeah, I'm super happy seeing most. I think most of the people playing the game are having a good time and they really like it. We've gotten really positive messages. There's a couple of one-star reviews on the arcade version, but what's happening there and is so in the very first room of the game, you learn to move around, you learn to look around, you learn the gravity change, and there's a button that you have to press. And on the iOS version, we have words saying, move around, do this to look, do this to gravity change. And then when it comes to pressing the button, there's no text. The button just highlights in the middle of the screen. And we thought that would be enough that people would tap it.
Hmm.
But apparently a lot of people are not doing that because they're waiting the instruction. And so they're spending, I guess they're like getting stuck in that first room.
Yeah.
And we're getting these one-star reviews that's like unplayable on iOS, stuck in first room. So
Oof.
we gotta go and add that. I mean, I do see now the inconsistency in our instructions.
Mm.
Um, but I think part of it too is when we did QA, it was the same company that's played the PC version, that's played the console versions. So those people are like, oh yeah, we know exactly what to do. Um,
Yeah. Shoot. Well,
and
that's an
we'll
easy thing
figure it
to.
out. Yeah.
You'll patch that, and that'll be done. I mean, like I said, and more people are going to play it when it comes out on more different platforms. It's just launching isn't what it used to be.
Yeah, and you'll see it's interesting people using the ratings because you can't really, it's not like they're threats, like you can't answer someone else's
Mm.
rating, but people are like, oh hey, you just have to tap that button, like the iOS controls are fine, you just have to do this, and you're like scrolling through the comments and it's all people are having conversations with each other.
Oh, dude. I miss forums now. I don't have any, because that is the one thing. There's no ratings on Epic. And I haven't looked. Maybe I should look into some stuff. Why haven't I updated my Twitch channel with key art? That's a good question. I stopped streaming. Like, I just hit a point where it was too much effort. I need to get back into streaming regularly. Do you think you will? You'll keep streaming now that the game's out?
Yeah, I love it. It's been one of the best things that I discovered, making the game because I think, especially, but even before I had the team, I think I was alone for like 3 years. I wasn't streaming, and I just remember it was like you'd have a problem, when you're kind of struggling with the code, you're just sort of doing that by yourself, and then when you finally solve it, there was no one to share that victory with you.
Yeah.
Um, but doing it on stream, we've been some people have been watching for like four years maybe, and that was really exciting when we launched to celebrate together because I think those people really understood what the journey's been like. Like
Yeah.
they've been there the whole time. So that was, yeah, the community's been great. And I just really like, for me, it's like going into an office. Before I streamed, I was very worried. Like a friend of mine suggested that I try streaming. And I was like, I don't have time to write up a script every time I go live. Because I was thinking of streaming like a TV show. And now I realize it's actually just hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's hard for me to get work done. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I work at a slower pace when I'm streaming because I'm talking to people. And so it's fun. It was more fun early on is a tool to stay motivated and to stay
Yeah.
accountable. And once I had a team, it dropped off as far as like usefulness because I had people to keep me accountable, and also had a lot more work to do. You know what I mean?
Right. I still find it helpful, a lot of times when I need to get through like kind of the boring design work,
Yeah.
it's helpful just to put it on and you can be like half distracted but still making progress. But yeah, if I do really need to focus, and especially because I like to listen to like one song on repeat for hours, and that
Yeah.
would just drive everyone crazy.
I do the same thing. That's so funny. Yeah, I'll find one song that first up, like I'll be on a random Spotify thing, and one song will just be like, find that one, and now it's
Yeah.
just going to be repeated for the rest of the day because it's the only way I can zone in. All right, I think we should. This has been a pretty long podcast, so I'm going to wrap up the podcast, and we'll just hang out. Okay.
Sure, definitely.
All right. So this has been Gwen Frey and William Chyr, and you've been in the dialogue box. All right, I'll just cut that. We actually never did an opening. It's probably fine.
We'll have to edit one in later.
Yeah, we just kind of started going. I've forgotten how to do podcasts and also stream and also everything because my brain's an Etch-a-Sketch that just got cleared.
Oh, I noticed someone saying neither of us uploaded box art on Twitch. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
to do that.
Are we supposed to do that? Oh.
There's a way I can send you a form. There's a way where you can like email Twitch and let them know that you're the dev, and then you can do that.
Got it. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. Elliot's been saved my ass. The whole the day before I launched, Elliot was like, "What else are you doing for promotion?" I'm like, "Sending out a press release." He was like, "Why don't you do an AMA?" I was like, "All right, how do I do that?" And he told me how, and then I did an AMA. And it was on the
Yeah,
front
that got
page.
huge.
Yeah, it was
I
on the
saw that.
front
Yeah.
page. And the next day it was Andrew Yang. Got way lucky. Imagine if I did the same day as Andrew Yang, I would not have any upvotes. People want to hear him.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can declare your candidacy for president.
Yeah. We got enough. We got enough people up there on that stage. It's fine. Don't need more.
Someone had an interesting question earlier. What draws both of you to puzzle design? What's interesting, compelling about it to you? I'd like to hear what you think.
Me. Ooh. Okay. Well, I'm not a designer, right? Or really a programmer. Like
How do you define that? I mean, you designed a
I
game.
am now, I guess, because I did
Yeah.
design a puzzle game, and now I have really strong opinions about puzzle games. I do like them, and if you look at, I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been looking at the games I play, and the games I play, like I love Darkest Dungeon, Into the Breach. I play crap tons of Civ, loads of 4X strategy games. I always play strategy tactics games. I didn't
Mhm.
start playing any puzzle games until Kine, really. And I did like them a lot, but the reason Kine is a puzzle game is because if I was a programmer, Kine would have been a tactics game. I don't have the ability to make something bigger than a puzzle game. And if you think about it, like for Kine, for the game I made, there is no AI, right? Like I don't have to make NPCs. I don't have to make. I turned off all physics. Like there's no physics in the game. It's simple. The logic is pretty simple as far as moving around in a grid. Like if you look at programming complexity, it's significantly similar. simpler than a multiplayer game or anything else out there, right? A lot of it was just
Yeah.
leaning into what I could actually do as a solo developer. I could make a puzzle game. I mean, I could also, I suppose, have made a narrative like game, but I'm not really a writer. What I am is really into 3D, and I like how things move in 3D, and I like choreographing things in 3D. So Kine was a like when I started Kine in the very beginning, I was making I was imagining a movement system because I'm a tech animator and I didn't want to do another fucking character with run cycles and shit, right? Like I just wanted to come up with a new movement system and I thought it'd be cool if you were like this dude and you were like tumbling around a world doing somersaults and you'd kick off of a wall and I needed to prototype that. And so I prototyped it
Uh-huh.
with a box and with little sticks so that you could kick off of the wall and on a grid because that was the easiest way to do the prototype. And that was one of the first elements that became Kine. And the reason it was that was because in the end, that was like the character that is Quat was initially just supposed to be a character that was going to be reskinned to be a humanoid, and I was going to animate it, and it was going to be a human being rolling around that you could shoot, and you'd move through the world by always somersaulting and kicking off of walls. But the first version wasn't a puzzle game at all. I didn't know I was making that. It was a tech demo for an animation system. And when I saw the cube and the way it moved, I thought it had character and it was fun. And I thought I would make like something like that Japanese game where you're game show where people have to like get into certain shapes to fit through holes and shit.
Oh yeah.
So I was thinking of it like that, or like how you'd have to like fit through a wall, and that was not fun at all. And I scrapped the whole thing. And I tried to make a puzzle game initially, and it was crap. And then I played a game called Steven Sausage Roll, which I've
Right.
talked about this before. And after that, I was like, oh shit, I should have taken that tech demo and done this. And I was like, oh well, like a billion people are gonna do that now. This game's awesome. And I ignored it for like 8 months or so. And then finally, I went back and I was like, I'm gonna finally do that. I should make this. There's no fast follows to this game. What the fuck? And then I just started making Kine. So it was heavily inspired by Steven Sausage Roll. But yeah, like it was a puzzle game because I could and had the stuff, and that's what I wanted to make. I didn't. I'm honestly not sure what I'm gonna do next. Like, I have a couple different ideas for puzzle games if I want to keep going like as a solo dev. Like, do I want to make another puzzle? The initial plan that I had like for about a year or so was once I got funding, I was like, okay, I'll launch Kine. It'll do, it'll do what it'll do. And then I'll launch another game maybe 2 years later, and then another game 2 years later. That's just keep making these kind of small puzzle games, these kind of spatial reasoning games. I've got a lot of ideas for this kind of stuff. And I thought that would be fun and it'd build up a brand and so forth, right? It's being like, I would just own this little niche and it would just be my little niche. But, I get bored, so we'll see if that actually happens.
Right.
Because I don't, the games I tend to play tend to be more strategy and tactics games. And I think if I had the opportunity, I think it's, I'm too close to launch right now to say what I'm going to do next.
Right.
Because, like, obviously I'm bored. I just fucking finished crunching for 2 years on this. The idea of doing it again is really fucking exhausting. And the reality of, like, there are elements of this. Every launch is different. Launching a game as a solo dev, I'm not a solo dev. I had contractors helping me at different times, right? Like I had a couple artists help for a month or two here. Like I had one artist help for about 4 or 5 months out in the UK and stuff. But they weren't like close, like they weren't part of the team. And I did have a musician I hired for the music. But like for the overwhelming majority of the work was me. And like I don't have a launch party planned, and that sucks. Like there's no one else to like I miss having a team a bit.
Hmm.
But if I have a team, then I gotta make something bigger than Kine. Like I gotta make something that can sustain it. And so I don't know what I'm doing. Every day I wake up and I'm completely confident about what I'm gonna do, but every day it's a completely different thing. So I don't know yet, man. We'll figure it out.
You are welcome to join our launch party
Oh
in
yeah,
Chicago. I mean, we were launch buddies, so we could celebrate together.
we did.
Yeah.
It was wild that panned out that way. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's cool. I actually don't play a whole lot of puzzle games. The first version of Man for Garden was way more puzzly. it was like puzzle room after puzzle room after puzzle room. Uh, but I think what it became was more about the architecture, and that's ultimately what I'm more interested in.
Hmm.
And the puzzles are there just to highlight something interesting about the world.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, because I could not get into Steven Sausage Roll. I got to try it again.
Oh, dude,
It's
so
interesting.
good.
The best thing that I've metaphor for puzzle design. I don't know if you know Pohang Chen. He works for Google now, but he made this game Perspective. It's a digipen game. It's a puzzle game. Basically, it very cool. I think it just came out on Steam like a week ago.
Is it
But
anything like Superliminal?
so similar. You play you so you walk around in this 3D space, and then you have these two modes that you can switch between. So the first mode, you're walking around in 3D space, and then you can lock in the camera, and then you're controlling like a 2D character on the wall. So you're
Is
sort of
that,
this platformer.
have you heard of Contrast? That did that.
I think it's similar to that. Yeah, this was like 2012, 2011, but he used this example from the movie, this line from The Prestige
Mm.
called where they're talking about magic tricks,
Yeah.
and they said, there's like three steps to a magic trick. First, you show the audience something normal. That's step one, like kind of establishing this. You've got I don't know, a handkerchief, and then the second step is you do something special with it, unusual with it. You make it disappear, but that's not enough. You have to have the third step, the prestige, which is where you bring it back.
Mm.
And I think, and he said, okay, so when you have a puzzle, what you do is you present the player with a mechanic. They're like, okay, this is straightforward. And then you show them something that they can do with it. Like, okay, like now I have this gravity change. I've got these boxes, I can stack them. And then you sort of throw something that the prestige is they see something and initially they think it's impossible. They're like, there's no way. But then they think about it and they realize it's all part of the rules.
That's a beautiful way to think about it.
Yeah, so I think for me the puzzles in Manifold Garden they're sort of designed as spatial sentences. You know, here's this room, and I think John does that very well in The Witness, where he creates these. Yeah, I call them sentences, where it's like one puzzle that connects to another, and it's an idea translating to another idea, and then
Yeah, I gotta damn it.
finishing off with the third one.
I gotta get some Dramamine and play that game. It's getting embarrassing at this point. Like, oh man, because that game is so beloved. The but yeah, the I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do next as far as puzzles. Like I do now. I have a deep appreciation for puzzle games and I love them. But I'm also like currently very very bored. Not bored, tired. The idea of doing this again is not as appealing as it was when I was doing it a year ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what comes next.
I've honestly just gained so much appreciation for anyone who shipped the game before. For me, starting out and thinking I could do it in 3 months. I remember Young Horses, who made Octodad. They're based here in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and I met them in 2012. And they had the Student project that had been released, and they were working on Octodad Deadliest Catch for about 2 years at that point. Team of eight, and I remember when I first met them, I was like, what a bunch of amateurs. If it were me, I would have finished by now. I don't know what they're doing for 2 years.
Oh God,
And
that's
now, they've been huge mentors throughout development. They've helped me so many times throughout the way, but I'm like, I understand now. Um, yeah.
yeah. It's a lot. It becomes quite a lot. I oh God, I mean, I've done it. Like I've done this a couple times. Being solo was basically impossible near the end. Specifically self-publishing on I don't know how to explain how much it sucked doing multiple fucking platforms. I don't know. Like I don't know what my postmortem's going to be. You shouldn't write your postmortem 2 days after you launch, blah blah blah. But like I'm pretty sure a big part of it's going to be don't fucking do that like don't do that. That's not a good idea to go multi-platform as a solo dev as an indie. That's ridiculous. Like you need a publisher for that shit, man. And I think a takeaway I'll have from this is it is a good idea to be really, what you did with Apple Arcade was really, really good. Like be on a new service or be in a big part of someone's service like that. Make a friend with a platform. And again, congratulations on the featuring today.
Thank
Or
you.
yeah, that's awesome.
Congrats to you too on launching and for being part of a new platform as well.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that one goes. Like, I'm still like I'm excited about Stadia, but that one is so much more of an unknown. Like, I mean, I guess in a way, Apple Arcade was too, and it's still an unknown. It's interesting. Alan Hazelden brought up a good point that like half the developers there are indies and kind of like mobile first, and half the developers are like console first. And there's nothing that's uniquely like premium mobile because there hasn't been no one was set up to do gorgeous premium mobile games really because premium mobile games never made any fucking returns, right? Like the kinds of people that were making the way you made money on mobile up until recently was by making a game where you could get people to play for a really long time so you can give them ads or microtrans. um, Premium mobile was often ports. I think the person Alan Hazel, I don't know, like there just isn't a lot of I don't know where I'm going with this. Not many people are set up to make the kinds of games that I imagine would be perfect for Apple Arcade. Because I think Manifold Garden on a. Do you think Manifold Garden is great on a phone?
I think yes, the controls are really. I was very worried about that. The controls feeling tacked on, and my first pass at at designing that, I was just like, well, bottom left corner is a joystick, bottom right corner is a
Mm-hmm.
joystick, and then we basically sort of project a regular controller on top of the screen. And we worked with this studio, GameCake,
Yeah.
originally. So we actually worked with two studios for the Apple Arcade ports,
I think
and
we.
initially it was just like a redundancy plan
Yeah,
because
I think
the
we.
timing was so short. Sorry, go on.
No, we actually talked about this in the last podcast. You went into like all this stuff about how you ported it and the joysticks and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So GameCake did a great job, and we made a lot of changes. So for example, it's like the reticle for PC that doesn't carry over. Instead, it's sort of like communicated in different ways. The objects highlight when you get close, and that's when you tap on them to pick it up, as opposed to the information being on the reticle. So I think they did a really good job, and it's very subtle stuff. Like the movement is a joystick, so how far your thumb moves from the point you play, like your left thumb is always on the screen, whereas the
Yeah.
looking is actually a trackball.
You know, I think my skepticism mostly comes from the fact that I'm not a mobile gamer. So the idea that you made this game that's got all this beautiful architecture and that you can like wander around and immerse yourself in, I just personally can't imagine doing that on a phone. But that's really fucking my preconceived notions of like I just don't game like this. You know, like I need a certain amount of
Sure.
screen for it to feel like a real game to me, and I think that's really just a me problem more than anything. Because I look at Manifold Garden and I'm like, playing that on a tiny ass screen, that's such a waste, right? Like I would want
Yeah,
that. I would want that on a big TV personally.
but there is tvOS and Mac, and you could
There's
always get a Mac Pro.
true, yeah, yeah. If I was rich as fuck, I could do that. That's accurate. Uh,
When they announced that, my team was like, "Do we? We're all getting those, right, for development purposes."
oh yeah, yeah. That was interesting. I'm porting to Stadia. Uh, my programmer does. He has an iPhone. It's actually fortunate I happen to just be somebody that uses a Pixel. But so like I hired Elmore, my buddy, to do the port to Stadia, and then it's like they're like, "Did you check it on the phone?" And we're like, "Yes, sure." Like I remember at one point he was trying to. It's difficult to borrow someone else's phone for an extended period of time for development purposes. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
your phone is your entire life. So he would go around the office like, "Hey guys, can I borrow someone's phone for an hour?" And they'd be like, no. Oh
Who
god.
knows what sorts of text messages are going to come in during that time?
Yeah. Oh, they're asking if you're gonna put Manifold Garden in VR.
No, well, I guess we could we have like in the game there's an option. You have the gravity change. A lot of people think that's going to be a problem. We actually do have an instant mode that just teleports, which could work. But I don't know how you deal with the falling. There's a lot of falling, and I think that could
Oh
be
God, no. Yeah,
problematic.
don't do that. All right, we're gonna have to. Jonathan Blow is still streaming Manifold Garden. We have to host him after this. Several people have been bringing it up.
Yeah, we should raid Naysayer 88.
All right. Whatever. Let me know when you're done here.
I'm done. I'm
You're
done.
done. You're done.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you everyone for hanging out, and thank you Gwen for having me on.
Oh yeah, of course. Hey, thanks for taking the time. It's only been like Jesus, slightly more than 24 hours. Jesus.
Actually, I'm
How
thankful for the distraction.
are you? Are you? I mean, I know you're like okay. I know
Yeah.
you said you want it to be like just like any other day. Like, are you?
Well, one thing that's really important to me now is like I have to set dedicated time to check my email and Discord because otherwise it's one of those things where if I wake up and just look at my phone and I see a bug report, it's like then I end up just doing that all morning instead of eating breakfast. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to check that
Ah,
until 10, and that's the time to do it. So I'm not getting carried away.
interesting. Okay. Well, yeah. It's amazing to me you already have a process when it's been 24 hours. That's good.
I suppose the 7 year dev time, I've had a lot of time to think about it.
Yeah, that's true. And you are accustomed to being interrupted a lot because you've had things like go viral and shit. And you're more I think you're a lot more public facing than a lot of indies. But you have you it was very kind of you to take like an hour and a half out of your life right now at this very like busy moment. So I appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you. No, it was been good to commiserate.
Yeah, totally. I might we'll see how crazy I'm feeling. Maybe I'll show up in Chicago. I did just book a trip to Canada at the last second, so we'll see.
Okay, well, I'll send you the details.
All right, cool. All right, thanks for hanging out, everybody. We're gonna bounce.